Good afternoon. My name is Andrew Bolden. I'm the choir master here at St. Timothy's Episcopal Church, a liturgical, sacramental, and welcoming congregation in Massillon, Ohio. Thank you for joining us today for the second of our Advent Recital series featuring local legend Loren Veigel. He told me he'd push me down the stairs if I said that so naturally I had to. Loren has devoted his career to Stark County and especially Massillon, having served as the director of the choral department at Washington High School and as the music director at St. Paul's Lutheran Church down the street. He has, on occasion, stepped up and played on the bench here at St. Timothy's, and we've been very thrilled to have him, including for our Christmas Eve service, December 24th, 10 p.m. Be here at 9:45 to hear the choir. And it's been a particular pleasure for me to work with him, having admired him as a student at another local high school. We won't say where. We invite you to join us for the rest of our recital series. Next Wednesday, we welcome tenor Michael Jeffrey Lucas, along with pianist Anthony Trivoletti, who will perform all of the tenor solos from Handel's Messiah. The following Wednesday, December 21st, we are thrilled to welcome back Levi Murayuki, our former organist, who will dazzle us with his virtuosic playing. Likewise, if you are without a church home, we invite you to join us for one of our weekly worship services, Sunday mornings, 8 and 10 a.m., as well as our midweek service of Eucharist, which will follow today's recital, but typically they're at noon. And we also offer a monthly Taizé service on the second Tuesday of every month at 7 p.m. Coffee and cookies will be available in the parish hall afterwards. We invite you to join us for our service of Eucharist immediately following recital, but there's no obligation whatsoever. But we hope you enjoy the recital. Thank you and enjoy.
Thanks very much, and thank you to Andrew and Father Baum for inviting me to play a little Advent concert here again. I enjoy it so much because I just absolutely love this instrument. I enjoy what is happening to the room. There's been a lot of changes in the room over the last year and a half or so with the removal of carpet and painting of the walls and this harder new floor, and we're getting a totally different concert atmosphere in the room from the organ, so it's just a special, special pleasure. You know, back when I was teaching school, if I talked about playing favorites, it would have been a real no-no. But as an organist, I am completely allowed to play favorites. And so today, I thought as I programmed this about the fact that basically this year marks 50 years, wow, since I started working in church music. And so I thought, well, I'll just dig out some of the old chestnuts and favorites that I absolutely love to play, and it has just been fun preparing it, and like a little trip down memory lane. I started with Bach, of course, played it a lot more in the Virgil Fox kind of romanticized style that I really adore, but I realized that looking back, I cannot remember ever an organ concert that I've programmed that didn't end up beginning with Bach. And that's not an intentional choice, it just seems to have happened. But there's good reason for that, because nobody has understood the voice of the organ in the last 250 years any better than Johann Sebastian Bach. So we had ourselves a little bit of Bach. Next piece, actually, I was excited about programming this because I received the notes for this piece from a member of this church. And she is here with us today, thanks to her daughter, Ginger Sorg. Many years ago, goodness, I don't know how many, Ginger, but I get an envelope in the mail from Florida, and it has this piece of music in it, with a note from Ginger that she and Walt had heard it played in Florida. Is that right? And loved it so much, and she thought of me. So it meant a whole lot to me. I've played it at a couple special family events, and I had programmed it for today because it's St. Tim's. So please enjoy Nicaea, which all of you know as Holy, Holy, Holy. Okay, I'm going to group a couple pieces together with comments here. By the time I ended my undergrad, I had decided that Brahms was my favorite composer. That's changed 20 or 40 times over the years, but I still love Brahms. Brahms did not write a whole lot of music for the organ. You know, he was much more an orchestral composer. But as all of you who know me know, I love things that are based on hymns. And this piece of Brahms that I'm going to play is based on an Advent Christmas traditional carol, Es ist ein Rose sprungen, Lo, how a rose blooming, we know it as. But you will not find it. His style of writing a chorale prelude so hides the melody that in the score, he actually has little X's about every half measure so you can figure out where the tune actually is hidden in there. So it will sound nothing like you picture. You are not wrong that you can't find the tune in his Lo, how a rose blooming, but it's a gorgeous, gorgeous work for the organ and really displays the beautiful flutes that this organ possesses. Now I've got to remember my program order. Oh yes, there's been no greater influence on my life than the great Lutheran organist Paul Mons, who played for years and years in Minneapolis. He traveled all over the world doing incredible hymn festivals. Clear back probably in the 1980s, we hosted him at St. Paul's, and he did a huge hymn festival for us and a couple other events. And I'm proud to say most of his chorale preludes were improvisations. And he does very much the influence of Bach that you heard in Jesu, Joy of Man's Desire. He loves creating a special little melody, which we call an obligato, and then exposing the tune one phrase at a time. It's just like a modern version of Bach's things. Most of those that he published, books of them, were improvisations that people recorded and then transcribed them, and then he would sell them. Well, when he was at St. Paul's, he was developing what I think is his magnum opus, was a partita set, very difficult to play, on St. Anne, the great O God, our help in ages past. And he improvised that night the final movement that ended up being published in the work. So today we're going to hear two of Paul Mons's. They're just, pick any of them, they're wonderful. But these are two of my favorites. The first is his setting of Now Thank We All Our God, and the second one, his setting of Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. Another big influence on me in my musical life and with organ has been Diane Bish. You all probably know her from her Joy of Music broadcast, where she plays very famous organs all over the world and does beautiful scenery with organ music. She's been very important to develop organ. Well, when Central Presbyterian Church put in their first electronic organ, Diane Bish was brought here to dedicate it. I heard the concert and had never heard of her, but she is just spectacular. So I'm going to play her setting of what I think is one of the most beautiful melodies ever, Finlandia. And so first the Brahms, and then two Monses, and then a Diane Bish. there are furnace men working in the basement. And those little flickers of power are a bit too much deja vu for me, frankly. Thank you, Andrew. Anyone who was here last year knows that on the day of my recital, the organ would not turn on. So we had a little electrical issues last year as well, but I think we're going to make it. I think we're going to make it. Okay, so we need a closing piece, and I often turn to the French, the great French composers of the late Romantic age. They were building those wonderful Cavaillon coal organs in all of the great churches of Paris, where most of these composers had church positions. And the toccata, the famous fingery pieces that we know for organ that are so famous, they stem from that age, from around the 1880s to the 1940s. And there's a lot of them. Everyone knows the Widor toccata. You can't go to church on Easter without hearing the Widor toccata. But this one is actually one of my very, very favorite composers. This is not called a toccata, though. It is called sortie. He put in parentheses afterwards grand choir, but it's called sortie. Do you know what sortie means in French? Yes, exit, leave. And so, it's just a great title because that's what that piece does. You play the organ loud and then it covers the noise of everybody getting up and leaving the church. And when you finish with that great big flourish, there's nobody in the room anymore. It's the organist's perennial dilemma at the end of the church service. It's one of the reasons I love you guys at St. Tim's, because you sit back down and listen. We love that. So it's called Leave, but please don't until I finish it. And thank you so much for all of you being here. Hi to everybody that's watching somewhere else. And again, I just appreciate the opportunity to play for you today. And I wish you the happiest of holidays and a Merry Christmas.